Welcome, everybody, to the Manufacturing Skills Group meeting. It's so nice to see everybody. We haven't had one of these in quite a while. It's been maybe a little over a year and a half. So it's so good to see our community partners, see all of our manufacturing partners to come in here. This is being recorded just so everyone knows, because we want to blast it out to any of our manufacturing partners that weren't able to make it today. We have a lot of stuff to cover. First things first, just have it in the back of your mind that the question is going to really be asked at the end, at the second half today is, what's your biggest problem with workforce? What's going on inside of there? And so write it down, type it in chat if you don't want to forget kind of what's on your mind. And then we're going to have kind of an open discussion later on in the presentation. So before we move on and really get going, I want to turn it over to Dr. Luis Pereira Castañon, our WCD Strategic Impact Officer, for a few words, and then we'll get going. Luis, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Daniel and team, Tracy, Dennis, everyone, Terrence, for today. And hello to all of you. It's so nice to see some of you. I saw Eric on there, Mr. Jensen, nice to see you as well. I haven't seen you for a while. And so really excited to be back with you all. As Daniel said, it has been over a year and a half, actually closer to 2 years since we've met with this team to talk about our work in manufacturing. However, even though we have not met, we actually continued the work. So that was one of the things that happened for us as soon as the pandemic hit. I think for some of you, you might have remembered that in 2019, we actually had an apprenticeship summit that we took place in November of 2019. It was a huge event. We talked about the work that we were doing, the continued work that we were doing in expanding apprenticeships, looking at cultures of learning, and really trying to provide more opportunities for our manufacturers in the region to gain access to educational systems and all the pipelines that I'm sure are still a need for you all as well. But the pandemic was just a crazy experience for all of us, I'm sure, and a very tough experience for us as well. And that's one of the things that I want to share with you all, just as an update. So, Goodwill Southern California, we're a nonprofit organization, and we were never designed to just turn the water hose off like that, right? Our retail operations are really the main driver for all of our work. And for those 3-4 months that we were closed, that was unprecedented for us. Never in any sort of plan that we have, we think that was going to happen or that we planned for that. So, and through at the same time, our America's Job Centers, the same job centers that provide some of you all with direct services from the community, those job centers continue to operate. So we became essential workers, and we provided services to businesses, to community members through the pandemic, and our doors remained open. So even though our retail operations were closed, all of our America's Job Centers, this team as well, we all sort of jumped on what can we do to help stabilize, to help support, and to help bring resources to the community. We had several meetings with all of you. We provided daily meetings with the support of Dennis, our economic consultant here. And we were able to provide resources to you all to make sure that we could keep going, keep operating, keep working, and really figure out how we're going to get past this pandemic. But through all that, I'm happy to say that Goodwill is a stronger company. We have become a very lean company as a result of that, but that actually has created some really great efficiencies within our own operations. We operate in 3 counties. We continue operating in those 3 counties. We went from 89 stores to about 82 stores. And so we're continuing to push our work. And our work has really been now to see how we integrate our services. So this type of work that we're doing with you all, with not only other companies, but also internally in our own department. And that has been a really great opportunity for us. So we are now going to be offering supportive services, things like bus transportation, and then access to other resources, even to our own retail staff moving forward. So very excited about that. And then the last thing that I was going to share was just our commitment for this work. We've done this work for over 6 years. This is the 3rd iteration of our program, and our commitment remains steadfast to the manufacturers in our region. In addition to the manufacturing work, we are also expanding our work into healthcare and logistics and transportation, which some of you actually have benefited from some of the logistics and transportation apprenticeships that we've developed over the last few years. So with that, I just want to say, thank you. Thank you for your continued trust in our work. And thank you for your partnership as we move forward and we turn the page and continue our apprenticeship program now under the banner of the Goodwill Apprenticeship Program. So thanks, everyone, and I'll pass it over to the team.
Thanks so much, Luis. I appreciate it. So couple of quick updates just for everybody, just some house cleaning. There's been some team changes. Some of you actually know this, but maybe most of you don't. Our other manager that used to be here leading this team, Tracy DeFilippis, she has since retired and moved back east with her family. I have now taken over her role as sector strategy manager for the region, as well as Tracy Martinez has moved up to the apprenticeship coordinator role and working with all the schools and the companies coordinating all of our apprentices. The SWAG program, I know a lot of you on the call, you have had apprentices inside of the SWAG program, and that's our partnership with COC up in Santa Clarita. That program still exists. It will now be kind of housed around College of the Canyons and serve the Santa Clarita area. So if you're a manufacturer up there or pick back house up there that's done some of our services before with that SWAG apprenticeship, that's the apprenticeship that will serve you. For the greater SoCal area, we have a new DOL registered apprenticeship called GAP, Goodwill Apprenticeship Program. And that's going to serve the great majority of all the other manufacturers from Long Beach, up in the IE, Ventura County, and everywhere in between. It's a big swath of an area. Under that program that just launched, we just had our first sign up of companies. Patrick Industries signed up 2 apprentices. So that was really cool to have that. Yay. First 2 apprentices in that bunch. The SWAG program saw over 60 different apprentices go through that program. And I hope that we're going to get really big numbers now that we've really spread this across a big region inside of the GAP program. So a couple of updates there for everybody. Now, I realize that there's a couple of people on this call that have never really heard of us and they don't really know Goodwill Southern California. So pardon me for a second for the veterans in the group, so to speak, that have really been with us a long time and understand. Let me just zoom back give me 2 minutes here and just kind of explain kind of who we are. So Goodwill Southern California, nonprofit. Our main mission is to transform lives with the power of work. So we have 80 different programs. Actually, I don't even know if some of you guys even know this. We have 80 different programs inside of Goodwill Southern California that work with veterans, work with homeless, work with youth, work with reentry, a whole bunch of uniquely abled programs. And so really right now, what I'm really shooting for is all these programs inside of Goodwill, bringing the attention to them for manufacturing and this whole space and this whole career pathway, and getting the attention of all those programs within Goodwill and then bringing them into the manufacturing space. But there's a lot of different programs here. Goodwill Southern California serves those 3 main sectors, as Luis said, manufacturing, which is all you folks on the call, as well as healthcare and global trade and logistics. Global trade and logistics and health and manufacturing just go hand in glove. AMS fulfillment out there in Santa Clarita, and of course, all the manufacturers here on this call. The manufacturing skills group, which is the call that you're on right now, this really acts as our forward arm and brand to gather the manufacturers and talk under the manufacturing skills group banner, and just to talk everything manufacturing from workforce development and everything else. So that's my little 50,000 foot highlight just so you kind of know all the different pieces and what's going on. So let me zoom in here now to the kind of the meat and potatoes and really talk about, what are the problems that we've seen as we've talked to manufacturers over the last several years. We've talked to a lot of manufacturers. This is just a handful of them. Some are right here on this call. And then including the S&H Machine, Acceleron's coming on this call later. What are really the problems that we've seen and we've really just heard from all of you? These are the main ones. The very first one is the revolving door. Employees that are getting hired and leaving within the first 4 to 6 months to a year, and the turnover cost of that, upskilling your current workforce and how to set up career pathway plans or even apprenticeships for that matter. Talent pipeline. And where are you finding individuals? Are you just on Indeed looking to pull from other manufacturers in the area and hire them? Are you looking to create new talent pipelines, or none of the above? How are you really hiring your talent? That's always been an issue or a problem, finding new people. And of course, the retiring workforce, that's happening now. People are retiring as well as in the next 5 years, and all those key individuals inside your companies that are going to be retiring with their brain trust and all the knowledge they have. Is how do you really capture that, and how do you feed it into all the young generation of your workforce for the next 10 years? So these are really the worries and the problems that we've heard and we've written down. And I'm really curious, like that question that we had at the beginning here is this it? Are there more? What are your really, what's the biggest one? Is there one here that you want to highlight above all else? Maybe it's talent pipeline. We've also, in talking to all the manufacturers, we've gone and then talked to all of the school partners, all the training providers, like who's out here training manufacturing skills in Los Angeles. So we've gone around and we've talked to all of them and figured out really what are their problems, what are they struggling with. And they're struggling with some of the same stuff. They're struggling with student drought. They're not getting enough pull into their manufacturing classrooms, school support, funding support, external partner support, trying to take their current students and get them attracted towards manufacturing, such as going on tours and everything like that. And I know everyone on this call has been very supportive of their local schools and training centers. And anytime I've called any of you and said, hey, I need a tour over here, everyone's so willing. So bringing more of that support to the school. Probably the biggest problem that the training centers have, any training center from a high school like Van Nuys High to LAVC over to an adult school like CME Institute, they're actually doing the best when it comes to this, is marketing. They don't know how to market their program to attract the general public into their classroom so that you can hire from their classroom. So that's something that we're going down and also identifying with them and then helping them and bringing them resources so that they can really boost this. Really, I would say the biggest problem here is at the end of the day, we need to convince families and parents to bring their children and motivate their children to come into manufacturing as a career path. And we're starting to see that and do that through partnerships with Titans of CNC and Van Nuys High School, and bringing curriculum and videos and good marketing content so that the parents can see that this is a great opportunity for their children to grow into something that could serve their family and their children's children for years to come, which is the manufacturing industry as a career. So big stuff happening here, which I really like. So zoom out. We got a bunch of partners here, and I just kind of wanted, this is the last thing that I want to leave you with, which is the big picture of what we're doing with all of our networking pipelines here. We have programs like American Job Centers, veterans. We're going to zoom in on veterans today. We have them on the phone so you can kind of hear from them and see what they're doing. I think veterans are the low-hanging fruit to this industry. I think they are hand in glove, fit perfectly with manufacturing, the types of personalities that we really need inside of manufacturing to flourish. I think veterans are going to be the key here, youth build and reentry services as well. We take these programs, we bring them resources. Let me share with you that really quick. We bring them targeted resources so that they can share with their veterans. Let's highlight them for a second. What the manufacturing programs are, what do career paths look like, what does training look like, what can you do in this field? Then those veterans would take them to their local training facilities where we can make that connection happen. They get trained up, 6-week program up to a 6-month program. And then that way the local manufacturing companies can hire from those programs. Incidentally, if any of you on this call are not plugged into any of the training programs in your area, please contact me. I'd be more than happy to set up introductions so you know when their graduation classes are happening. We're going to reignite our LinkedIn Manufacturing Skills Group page. So I'll be posting there, if you're not a part of that page, when these graduations are happening, when the classrooms are happening, so you know where to go and hire at pull from. Really, that's kind of half the battle, right? That talent pipeline, that progress. The other half really happens inside of the company. And this is where our workforce development tools come into play. This is where really the meat and potatoes and what we've learned in the last 5 years comes into play. and the tools and resources that we've helped develop, and bringing them to you. These are all free resources. They're literally just right in front of you, ready to pick up. Anybody that wants to participate with them, some of these tools would be an upskill training matrix, career pathway plans, learning and teaching environment setup. Apprenticeship would be another tool that you would be able to use to set up a learning and teaching environment, training within industry. So you can take someone that's only had 6 weeks of training and then mold them up into your next shop floor manager. And that's the real vision here, creating that learning and teaching environment inside of your shop. So you're able to accept that veteran who's had a 6-week training course, and then you hire him because he's an amazing personality, and you're able to work him up and give him a great career. And I think that that is the crux of really what we're trying to do here. Later in this, we're going to talk to Dennis Grogan. He's going to share with you some of these tools and how it all looks and works. If at any point in the future that you want these tools and access to these tools, you can email myself, and we'd be more than happy to hand them to you and give them to you. It's a DIY process and train you up. All right. That being said, just in a quick recap, there's really 2 big things here, big parts that I really see. One is that setting up learning and teaching environment inside of the companies themselves with workforce development tools. And then 2 is really establishing the connection between the company and the trainings so that you have a pipeline. And I think the simplest pipeline right now is veterans. So with that being said, we have Terrence Mann, our program manager for veterans, VPAN Peer Access Network in LA. These guys are awesome. They do such a good job communicating to veterans and really pulling the veteran community into their program, and then reskilling them and getting them out into the workforce. And we're hoping that the manufacturing can be a great pipeline for them, as it likewise, they could be a great pipeline for you manufacturers. And again, after all this, I'd love to hear from you to see if you think this is a great idea or not. So with that being said, Terrence, Stephen, I'm going to turn it over to you guys to take it from here. I'm going to stop sharing so you guys can share. I think you guys have a PowerPoint, so let me stop share. Okay, and then I will turn it over to you.
Okay, guys, my name is Terrence Mann. I'm the program manager at VPAN, and I also oversee the VEP program. I'm a U.S. Army vet, military intelligence, Desert Storm era. I'm one of the old guys. I have a master's degree in social work. I chose social work because I saw a need to give back to the veterans, because I see all the obstacles they face when they're discharged as far as employment, just everyday needs. Goodwill Services for Veterans, that's what I work for. We cover a vast area. We include Los Angeles District 3 and also San Bernardino County. We operate the 2 programs, the VPAN and VEP program, and they work closely together, and we benefit from each other, both of the programs. I'll briefly share the mission of VPAN. Slide. Give me that slide.
And let me know, Terrence, and Stephen, if you have connection to be able to put up those slides. You should.
I don't see it yet. Well, I'll just talk about VPAN. VPAN, that's the first ever community-driven support network serving veterans and veteran family in the U.S. The Veteran Peer Access Network connects with county departments, nonprofits, the VA, and LA City programs. It's led by veterans for veterans. Every last one of us on my team, we're all veterans, and we all have stories at different areas of service. VPAN helps you navigate through complicated systems. You receive services you deserve. VPAN prioritizes hiring veterans as battle buddies and system navigators to connect their brothers and sisters in need with resources that will help. The network embodies the You Matter idea. We want to let all the veterans know that they do matter. We learned a lot from the Vietnam era vets. When they got discharged, they had nowhere to go and no type of support. So that's what we incorporate that You Matter idea. We want our veterans to know that. But I'll briefly share the mission. Is the PowerPoint up yet?
I'm coming.
Okay. Well, we provide several resources: mental health, treatment for trauma, from combat exposure and stuff like that. Substance misuse support. There's a lot of treatment for substance use disorders. Housing, providing temporary and permanent housing for veterans through the VASH program. Work development and employment. We help with developing interviewing skills, resumes, and things of that nature. Education, we support school enrollment, vocational training, tuition assistance, and all types of miscellaneous, food, childcare, transportation, legal services. That's what we do here at VPAN. For VEP, I'm going to turn that over to Stephen.
Yes, let me just change this slide really fast. I'll pull this one up. So the VEP is a Veterans Employment Program, and it is also with Goodwill. We work hand in hand with the VPAN program, and it's really good. It's really nice. We do a really good job at helping veterans, especially, deal with all types of resources in terms of employment, connecting them to resources like such as manufacturing programs, and helping them to get back on their feet as such. And it's really good when we hire veterans, because veterans bring to the table a certain type of outstandingness that they have. I myself am a veteran. Terrence is also a veteran. So some of the resources that we have from the VEP program, right? We help with resume building, we help with job matching, we do referrals, we also do supportive services, and we help with education. And we talk about why hire veterans, right? There's a bunch of different things that organizations benefit from when they look to hiring veterans for their company or their organization or their apprenticeship, right? Not just the discounts and the programs that are out there to help levy some of the cost of working with veterans, but also who the veteran is. We come with a worldview, right? A lot of us have traveled. A lot of us have been all over the country. We have a discipline about us. We really have a dedication to the organization and task at hand. We have accountability. We have these cross-functional skills. And if you're looking to make your culture more disciplined, you're looking to make it grow, you're looking to make it more cohesive, then I think those are all advantages that you would have by bringing veterans in and allowing them to service you, right? We have this sense of duty that's really, really intense for us. We serve our country, we serve our nation, we do it proudly. And we also have the ability to hold each other accountable. Well, we know other veterans in the room, we have a reputation to keep, we have a discipline to maintain. So we also make sure that those other veterans are meeting the same standard that we ourselves uphold. So unlike any other employee, there's follow through, and we're also trained leaders. We go through this process of going into the military, and we were trained all the way through to become supervisors and managers and leaders, right? So connecting with veterans to your organization would really strengthen it. And it would make it a better run organization. If you have veterans in your leadership, it's really going to shine. So, and it's also, yes, go ahead. Sorry.
Right now, you mentioned why hire veterans. Companies all across the U.S. right now, they're implementing strategies, to hire thousands of veterans over the next decade. And the reason they're doing this is because they recognize the skills veterans can bring to these organizations. I just wanted to chime in on what you said, Steve.
And if you're looking, if any of these words on the screen mean something important to you, then I think you will find them in the veterans, right? Because all of us, no matter what branch we're from, we kind of come with these things that are on the screen, right? So if you're looking at this screen and you're thinking my company or organization can use that, or I would love to have more of that, then you will find these in veterans. For the VE program in particular, we have these 4 pillars that we're working on through our program, right? So we have community engagement, we have training and education, we have partnerships we're trying to build, and then we have participants in our program. So these are the 4 areas that our program focuses on in particular. And again, we always try to partner and hook our veterans up with organizations and companies that will be successful for both them and the company themselves.
And during our intake through the VEP program, I asked them a question. Basically, why should companies be interested in hiring you? And some of the responses, they include like, we can get the job done without supervision. We're more determined. It's programmed into us to be adaptable. We train to adapt and overcome, face challenges and meet objectives. We take our responsibilities seriously. We come from that culture. Those are some of the responses I got from the initial intake.
If you think about it, we go to war, right? We literally go to war. And if we can go to war and survive that, and be dedicated and maintain that. We want to come back and bring that same thing to the workforce, that same quality, those same skills we developed out there, we bring to wherever we work, the same pride, the same mission, and the same success rate. So, I work with veterans. I have the pleasure of working with veterans. I see them often. They're multi-talented people. They really will help the organization. And they're looking and they're interested in different positions and different jobs everywhere, right? But they also want something that's meaningful to them as well, and something they can give back to.
And to answer your question, Carmen, yes, we will send contact information so that you can follow up with Stephen or Terrence. We also have Thomas McDaniel here, who's another veteran and also part of our Inland Empire group. So we have several different veteran programs throughout the entire 3 regions, 3 counties that we cover. So you'll get that information, and we'll also maybe share some of the other VPAN networks, at least in LA County. VPAN now operates in 1 VPAN for each one of the supervisor county districts. So I think we can share all that information with you all if you're interested in connecting, but definitely think about us as the conduit for those connections as well, because I think we can definitely help to inform, guide, and make the appropriate connections with the veteran programs that are local to you.
Absolutely. Definitely see us as that center hub, and you can reach out to our team, and we'd be more than happy to find the resources in your area, from training provider, veteran resource, whatever it may be. Terrence and Stephen, any other final words that you guys wanted to say?
That's about it for me. You have anything, Stephen?
Yeah, just, if you guys are looking for veterans looking to connect, we'd love to talk to you more about what we do, find out how we can support you more. So please just give us a line, we'll set up a meeting, and we'll definitely figure out how we can work together to make both of our parties successful.
And I think it'd be really smart for manufacturers and the HR departments to connect directly to the VPAN group in your area. That way you can follow the veteran that you want to hire as they get trained, or you can hire them straightforward. If you had a great training resource and you had that learning and teaching environment inside of your shop, then you could just hire them straightforward with no experience. And then you can bring them up in your own shop, whatever it may be, or you can get them prior trained and then into your shop. Thank you so much, VPAN, for being here. Terrence, Stephen, really means a lot for us to have your voices at the Manufacturing Skills Group meeting and to share with all the manufacturers. So with that, I want to introduce Dennis Grogan, who is our skills ambassador. Dennis is amazing. I love him very much. I've been able to work with him for many years now, and see him work hand in hand inside of shops. So I really appreciate him, and he's going to be sharing and leading that question of what's like your biggest problem inside of workforce, as well as talk over training within industry and some of these workforce development tools. So Dennis Grogan, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thanks. I appreciate the kind words, Daniel. Thank you so much.
Sure.
It's interesting when, and I know many of you, so thank you for joining here. We're gonna go over some new ground, and my role as the Manufacturing Skills Ambassador is largely to collaborate with the manufacturers, help develop learning and teaching environments at those companies, so that the career pathway for veterans or people from America's job centers, or that the company found themselves, allows that person to not only integrate well with the company, but have that company be a place where they value respect for people, the development of their career over time, and sometimes training becomes an afterthought. It becomes something that you try to do while you're managing the chaos or the issues of your business. So before I dive into this, one of the things I've seen the most in the training world shift in the past 2 years. Prior to COVID, it was mostly continuous improvement training, strategic leadership, all the way down to Kaizens on the shop floor. And the largest shift I see now is in skills training. an actual skills training for the jobs themselves. Manufacturing was considered an essential industry, but a lot of people transitioned during that time. So you see new people coming into manufacturing that have never been there before. You see people changing industries. And so almost universally, most all of my programs have, really had a very heavy skill development element. Not that people are not doing continuous improvement or lean or other, but they're mostly focused on trying to get their team skilled up, if you will. So, at Goodwill SoCal, our programs fit real well with that. If I kind of scroll through here, over the years, we've developed a toolkit, and the toolkit grows. The learning and teaching policy, all the way through to career pathway plans, we've standardized our modules. We've got 6 1-hour how-to instructions, because we're trying to train trainers. We're trying to have this be a do-it-yourself type of a program. But to guidance from people like David at S&H way back many moons ago, we can't recreate the wheel. So what we try to do is bring you programs that are very universally well known. And that's what we'll talk about today with training within industry. The ongoing support of the career pathways with Goodwill goes beyond the initial toolkit into the Goodwill Apprenticeship Program, and then also showing you how to take advantage of state initiatives like the Employment Training Panel that can help fund your ongoing workforce development training. So this is a little bit of a how-to, a little deeper than the training matrix. I'll show a picture of the training matrix at the end, but many of you know that we've, really adopted this method of upskilling that takes people through a maturity process over time. Level 1, when someone's trained, they're still learning, right? They're really need to be watched over during that period, where someone who can perform it solo is putting out good quality and they're very consistent. We found the hard way that not everybody that has good skills is a good trainer. The key to that is that people have to want to mentor others. We find that heavy in the veterans. They're very mentor orientated, but just because someone has a great skill doesn't mean they're a great trainer. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But the most mature level we find in the worker skill development is when people truly understand value and they can proactively do continuous improvement, but measure it with data. So this method is, one we've talked a lot about, and it's really rooted inside of training within industry. Training within industry really was established during World War II, the Rosie the Riveter days, when you had a lot of men at war. Not that women didn't go to war, because of course they did in many support levels. There were new people inside of factories trying to get goods to the Allies to help support the victory. But we didn't have a lot of time to retrain or reskill people that had never been in a manufacturing plant. So this program is really focused on manufacturers doing it themselves. So it's very train the trainer. It's also focused heavily on safety and doing things efficiently, but balancing that with quality and being conscientious. Manufacturing takes that. It takes all those things. So the training within industry model, if you will, has been around for a long time. And companies like Toyota adopted it as their method to develop people. So we've talked about upskilling in the past, and we've given reference books for Toyota. I'll show a couple of those books towards the end. But at a very cursory level, training with industry has three legs to the stool: the job instruction, the job method, and the most important to me, I think, is today, especially the job relations. We'll talk a little bit about each, but The job instruction is really the quality manual and the standard operating procedure or the work instruction that you're trying to train someone on. It is the how to do it. The job method itself is someone demonstrating what's on those SOPs. So it's one thing to be able to take a standard and, and train people on it. It's another thing to be able to demonstrate that actual method in the job place. And then the third most active ingredient inside of training within industry is where people either win or lose, and that's in the job relations. So if employee training programs don't have a good relations and communications plan, oftentimes there's confusion about why we're doing it, or am I being worked out of a job? If I train someone, am I training my replacement? This is just for the company to make money. Well, all of those challenges you have are very common. If I get this new skill, how much more money will I get? I had a leader I was supporting a couple of weeks ago, and we were working on cross training. We wanted to, work with one individual who just didn't want to move. They had a lot of skills. They had a lot of knowledge, industry knowledge, but they were really comfortable in their role. So relationally, we had to know that person shouldn't be pushed because it has to really kind of be on their terms a lot of times, especially in 2022 post-COVID. The job relations portion of training within industry is more important than ever. So I don't know, any questions real quick before I move through this a little bit? Just wanted to check the chat. So this goes deeper inside of the core of the upskill training matrix. This isn't different from the upskill training matrix. This is just more detailed instruction on how to do it. So there's 4 methods, and you can kind of see they tie into the most common continuous improvement method, plan, do, check, act, and the scientific method of thinking, which is what we brought forward last year with our learning and teaching policy. We'll talk about the learner's storyboard, but scientific thinking, I think, is it's a STEM-related training program, and each of the roles, job instruction, job method, and job relations, might not be the same trainer. So, you may have someone from HR working on job relations. You might have someone from the quality team doing the job instruction. And then you might have a shop floor leader demonstrating the job method. The benefit of having that well-rounded team and giving that exposure to the trainee is that they're not just getting one story, right? From HR, they might be getting more about the facts and how we take action and how we work together and collaborate. People's distress tolerance right now is very low. It's very, very low because of world events, because of the pressures economically. If you don't really plan the relation part of it with human resources, you'll find yourself in the human resources department, but you'll be defending yourself because sometimes if people don't really know why and they're not engaged with and on board with what you're doing, it'll backfire in ways that you don't really intend. So those unintended consequences, I think today are most relevant around people's distress tolerance and lack thereof. So I think showing respect for people really shows respect for the state of the union, if you will. And the job method training really is a chance to exemplify not just the method of the skill, but the pace at which you should work. How do you integrate quality management into your work? How do you follow procedure and be efficient? And that job instruction training is always important because if people don't have a standard to measure to, then quality and performance is a variable that you don't want to leave subject to someone's interpretation. So if all parties agree, human resources, quality, and production, you're going to have a really robust program for not just skills training, but then also continuous improvement. So the tools we're bringing forward are just really showing you how to weave them all together, demonstrating that training within industry isn't different from the upskill training matrix. It's just deeper down the rabbit hole in the how-to. So some people have the resources for this and some don't. In some small manufacturers, it might be one person that's doing all three roles, but all three roles should be planned differently so that you can make sure you prepare and present and apply and test the training. Once someone's gone through training, if they haven't been really measured or tested on it, did it happen? And that's one of the things that I think people miss. This is a long-term vision. There are starter routines to this that you can build up to. That's why we call this a maturity model. There's an entry point, and then there is a way to mature this over time. And if you are a manufacturer, you want to get the quality manual to be more than something that sits on the shelf, then this is a great way to activate that. The production system and the quality system should not be different. The quality system is the rule book for production, and if we don't train on it, how are we expected to measure people to that performance if we haven't given them the benefit of the doubt to carefully go through the instruction, show them the method, and give them a two-way communication during the job relations portion? It's a time-proven method, and it's also you can bring it across any industry. We serve manufacturing, healthcare, and logistics, and we find that the job instruction, job relation, job method technique works. It has worked. It is about frontline workers and leaders collaborating together for the betterment of not just the business, but for the learner, and in most cases, the teacher or the leader develops more skills during this period than almost anyone. So it's a learn by doing approach. It's about skills. It's not theoretical. It's actual application, and it can be put into any industry. You could do this in a restaurant, and you could do this in a machine shop. And in all those places, the upskill matrix is supported with the training within industry as more detailed how-to. We have a lot of people that take initiative and they don't really want to, they don't know, maybe they don't have resources to bring in an extra trainer or a consultant, but engaging employees and keeping their mind busy on the right things is really a huge piece to this. So we want to mature not just their skills, but their knowledge of the work and their responsibilities related to the work. There is a change in culture where people felt obligated to know their responsibilities, and today employees push that responsibility onto the employer. Well, it's a shared responsibility. Work itself, the knowledge of the work and the knowledge of why you need to be responsible for certain things, is key and critical to sustaining not just training, but improvement. So the skill development is really, a good bit part of it. You'll find tons of reading on training within industry. But here are some of the books that we recommend for some of the toolkit. The toolkit, the learning and teaching policy, this Toyota engagement equation is great for any senior leader that's trying to develop skills and people inside of their organization. Toyota's been used as examples in healthcare, but it's of course most commonly known in manufacturing. But again, this book isn't manufacturing specific, it's people specific. Our upskill training matrix theory book we recommend is this Toyota talent book. And inside of the book, you'll see training matrix, just like the one that we use. And it really goes into great detail into how You can mature that upskill training matrix. A good bit of people that are on this call have heard me talk about the training matrix over the past few years. If you want help with any of these things, just reach out to Daniel or Tracy or I, and we'll be more than happy to help guide you through your own implementation. The learner storyboard is the practice routine for scientific thinking. It's a continuous improvement method, but it is also a skill development method. The upskill matrix is a result, right? We accomplish this. This is the status of where we are in our maturity. The learner storyboard is more of the active, how do you engage those people in the skill, in the responsibility, and the work goals that you have. The lean manufacturing world would call scientific thinking Toyota Kata. All it really is Toyota's method of the engagement to get the employees from level 1 to level 2, or level 2 to level 3. So the matrix is that quick assessment for it. And then the learner storyboard is more of a daily or weekly routine to get them through the things they need to do to demonstrate the skill and prove that they are truly, now that next level. And training within industry that talks more in depth about the 3 stools of how do you build your own training program. This TWI facilitator guide is great. The same author has written a lot of books on this. There's tons of content, but if you want to kind of cut to the chase, the toolkit is really built in and around these different books that support the theory and application, and they're very, very practical. So I just like to show those. We're trying to promote scientific thinking and respect for people, and that common thread goes, kind of through all these books. So here's just an example of, a team that's used the matrix. They're at the learner storyboard, working on their current challenges and the obstacles that are in their way. There's a plan, do, check, act cycle on here that ties into the training within industry. And the idea is to remove obstacles over time so that people can go from one level to the next. The communication board is a great example of a method to activate job relations. If you don't have a communication board, I highly recommend you build one. And if it's only about performance, that's a start, but you can promote safety here. You can promote monthly events. You can promote people's birthdays. You can develop a method of communication that is nonverbal and visual. And then ensuring that people get together on a regular basis. If you can't put people in a room because of COVID, bring them in small groups. And if you can train your trainers to run the learner storyboard, those trainers will mature people up the skills matrix. And if they follow the training within industry model of job method, job instruction, and job relations, you'll have a higher rate of success. So it's all a la carte. It's all, scalable and modular. You can go at this real heavy and deep, right? Or you can use it as a guide to get going. But I just kind of wanted to throw that out there. Some people have asked me over time more about the training matrix and, how do I get more education on my own about it? So I really recommend you dive into training within industry. And if anyone on this call wants to go through that toolkit, the Goodwill has been generous enough to offer, the ability for me to bring you through those toolkits, give you a 1-hour training on each topic. And of course, we'd be there to support you with your implementation. The method for training within industry fits perfect for apprenticeship. If you don't have a job relations, a job instruction, and a job method part of your apprenticeship training, you're missing a lot of it. So it's one thing just to get the apprentice signed up and going on Tooling U and doing their OJT. But if they don't have a mentor and they don't have company learning and teaching policy that supports that initiative, a lot of opportunity gets lost. So I'll just kind of throw it out there. We've talked a lot here this morning. What are your biggest problems when it comes to workforce today?
Feel free, anybody, to unmute and just start chatting away, whatever you got. David, I'm sure you got some. You're muted still, brother.
He's smiling.
We need a longer meeting.
We need a longer meeting. That's right.
So you're on the front lines pretty heavy, David. What are some of your concerns right now?
I mean, oh gosh, I have so much. In terms of workforce development,
Please.
Often the skilled workforce in our industry is not the best trainer. They're not the best trainers. Maybe communication's lacking. They can be resistant to passing knowledge because they feel it's that it could be working themselves out of a job. We're also one of the biggest reasons why companies don't train is because we have schedules, right? We have to make parts.
Right.
And so often your most valuable employees in your company are the ones that you need to make parts. And so how do you get them to train others when they're so busy trying to keep the company on time? So I think those are some of the big ones. I think communication can be lacking. We haven't done a good job as an industry at training our trainers. You mentioned that earlier, but I think that's a big key, is that our trainers don't necessarily know how to deliver a curriculum and a message to employees that resonates and gets them excited about it. But I think it goes even farther back than that. I think it starts just the high schools aren't, for the most part, don't have shops. I mean, when I was going through school, my favorite classes every day were the shops, right? That's what I looked forward to doing every day. Wood shop, rocket building. I did all that stuff, electrical. I could care less about all the other stuff. I wanted to go to wood shop or metal shop. So I think that from an early age, it becomes a problem. And then counselors at schools don't, everybody's focused on sending people to college. But a lot of times, if you want to be an executive in manufacturing, great, go to college. But for the most part, college doesn't benefit my skilled workers here at all. They would be far better off going to a trade school or just coming into industry and being talented and learning. So we're working in an industry that expects things to be better and better all the time, faster, cheaper, better. So the bar keeps getting raised, making it harder for people to enter. There's a long runway for developing the skill of the trade, right? And I think the youth are they're not as patient as maybe my grandfather's generation and my dad's generation. My grandfather worked right here in Burbank for Lockheed for 45 years, and my dad was a machinist for 50 years. And my dad, even when he retired, he said, I'm still learning. This is a trade that if you ever think you've mastered it, you're lying to yourself. So those are just some of the things that I can come up off the top of my head. It's complicated. I'm not saying there's no hope, because I still enjoy the industry and think it has a lot of potential, and I'm still excited about a lot of things, but there are definite challenges. So it's great that we're talking about these things today.
Thank you so much, David. I will put one little glimmer of hope. My son's a senior at Pally, and the make and fabricate module was booked. You can't get in it.
Good.
They love it. And I think the thing that the kids are super hooked on right now is Industry 4.0, the use of tech inside of it. Our generation, it was either, if you got in trouble, the fear was you'd go to jail or trade school. And I think that perception's largely shifting. And on the horizon for us is reshoring, manufacturing coming back from China, and this skill development will become more and more prevalent. Thank you, David.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else?
Dennis, if I could just add to a little bit of what David mentioned on sort of the high schools and the lack of some of these programs that I think some of us experienced previously, myself included. I think woodshop was one of my favorites as well, to be able to do that. But I think what's happened recently in the last, I would say at least 10 years, is the acknowledgement that college for all is not the right approach, right? That there needs to be a balance between sort of this pendulum that at one point was really concentrated on trade schools and vocations for a lot of individuals, and then it swung sort of all the way to the college for all system, and now we're sort of getting back to the middle. So in California, in these last few years, and I think some of you have seen this through some of the investments that have happened, but California has been at a surplus. We have a tremendous amount of money through all the different programs from the federal government, as well as just the savings that we had during the pandemic that have been put into K through 12 education, and in particularly the high schools and career technical education. So some of these fabrication programs, there's one in Santa Clarita that started right before the pandemic, but is now full blown, and it's got a whole following behind it. We've been working with other programs throughout the regions that are also doing much more investments in the high schools and really looking at, smart manufacturing, but also just electrical and a lot of these things that previously had gone away. And I think our commitment stays to try to engage these high schools and make sure that those investments are really going into this type of work, into this type of experience. So I will share, I'll send a link to the team here so that it can share with you all. But when you take a look at all those dollar signs, that's being invested in education, and look at the career technical education piece of it, you'll be very surprised. And hopefully, with anything, especially that's bureaucratic, it does take some time to roll out, but you'll see that those investments in the last two years have been significant, and you see them going into career technical education, particularly apprenticeships and all of these sort of upskilling initiatives as well. So we'll share that link and some of that information with you, because your voices are being heard in that space, and people are making those investments to try to get those systems back in place, programs back in place.
We're coming up on time, but this is really important conversation. So if anybody would like to stay just a little longer, just for another maybe 5, maybe give 10 more minutes, just so I can hear everyone's voice, I think it'd be very pertinent for all of us to hear more about these problems. Raul, I know that you were here from Northrop Grumman, second shift manager. If you have any kind of insight you can bring to what we've said so far, and from your point of view, I think it'd be very helpful for us.
Thank you. Well, all I could say is I appreciate this. This is something new to me that I wasn't even aware that was going on. The only reason why I ran into this particular program was recently I was on a drive through all the college campuses between Orange, Los Angeles, and San Bernardino County, trying to seek out students that are soon to be graduating or into the class to bring out to Northrop Grumman. We have had a shortage of machinists. We've been finding that happening. Basically been searching around for a little while now. Currently, I manage the second shift. Out of the old machine shop, I'm the only one that has the machining background. Been doing this for 35 years. I was in the Marine Corps, got out of the Marine Corps, basically working as a weapons repairer. Moved on went through the apprenticeship, went through actually the MTMA, went through the apprenticeship program through TRW, and moved on and continued on my education, attending El Camino College, where I picked up my AS degree, and went to Mount SAC and took more machine theory classes there, and picked up a few certificates. Picked up a project manager certificate out here at UCI, and picked up my bachelor at the University of Laverne in business administration, and recently picked up my master's in leadership and management there. So I've been really a advocate in trying to move and hire employees and bringing them over. Veterans is a big priority to me. And at the same time, trying to seek where to find in the schools that are working and finding out what's going on out there. It was a big eye opener to me. There's a big shortage of instructors from every school I visit, almost offered a job, which I was sitting there saying, no, I'm looking for students, but everybody wanted me to work there. But it's a eye opener to see that we are really facing something that part of my master program was the presentation was about shortage of skilled trade workers. And from the research that I did, I could see that we were running into about, up in the Sunnyvale, Northrop area, we were looking about a 20-year regeneration gap. And around here, it's looking like about possibly around the same. I mean, I'm getting close to retirement, and I look at what's my successor is going to be, and it's really a challenge to try to figure out how that's going to work out. I'm hoping by joining this program, we can be able to work with each other and see what we could do and be able to find people and move them over to the manufacturing side. It's really becoming more and more of a challenge to find these individuals. Every day I interview people, and I wonder where their basic concepts are coming. Lack of education is one thing I find out. A lot of the common safety questions I ask, there's none there that they have ever dealt, but slowly but surely I'm starting to see that. Saw coming from the Halst area up in San Benito before I came back down here was I saw San Benito now build a whole machine shop and welding shop out there, and they're starting to train and teach students into the manufacturing side. Visiting College of the Canyons, Valley College, Norco College, talking to the instructor out in Cerritos and Orange Coast Community College, visiting San Bernardino College, seeing that they're running 5-axis, Glendale, starting to run 5-axis machinery. Those were big eye catchers to me, and those are the big things. Visiting Pasadena and seeing how they're starting to ramp up their program was a big impression too. El Camino moving forward with that, Mount Sac starting to move with that too. So it's a big eye, and hopefully in the near future we'll be able to find more of these employees and bring them over to our shops and be able to take care of this. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Might I chime in?
Yes, absolutely. Go ahead. And anybody else? Open floor. Anybody else?
Hi, I'll introduce myself. I'm Tim Zwerner. I work for Dial Machine Shop in Rialto. Primarily, it's a 2-shop operation. We have a secondary shop that essentially is just CNC. But my Dial machine is, for over 50 years, been engaged in the repair and refurbishment of heavy industrial equipment. I personally have 50 years in the trade. Went to school for mechanical engineering, started working in the shops in 1970. And at the time, my idea about making big money was equivalent between being a journey level machinist and a degree mechanical engineer. I've kind of done both, but at this point in time, I've had a relationship with Dr. Bill Clark for probably 30 years. He's been integral in Fontana High School's program, San Marino Community College, and now I know he's still on the board, as I am, with TET in San Bernardino. One of the problems, and it was brought out earlier, was who trains who. We have a lot of people that could use training. Depending on their age and the approach of the trainer, it is met with suspicion. You want me to work like a slave? You want me to do this? You want me to do that? And my goal at this point, I'm 70 years old. I do sales, planning, estimating, run my own jobs, if need be, repair machines, whatever it takes. I'm blessed with the ability to do that. But at the end of the day, I don't want to die and not give away everything I've learned. And it's hard because you try to communicate experiences, past experiences with people, and there's this, I think it's an ego, certainly appears to be, where there's really a reluctance or resistance to listen to anything you have to say. Training, as was mentioned, has to be done by someone that has the skill set, has proven it time and again in many different situations. And what does that do? It takes away, as was presented earlier, you have somebody that's the top man on your floor or top person, the DC. And we need you now to shadow this apprentice that's come in. It is difficult because, you know, it was pointed out, price, quality, and delivery. And the pressure's on every one of those legs of the milk stool. Something has to give. And we, as a small company, constantly look for employees that know the difference, as Bill Clark says, the difference between a lathe chuck and a 2x4. And those are the kinds of students that may be coming out. We're a manual machine shop. We work on mining equipment, steel mill equipment, chemical processing equipment. It's not something that lends itself very easily to CNC programming and so forth. The parts are 10 tons and more. So all I can try to do and attempt to do is continue to thank the people that I work with, and they could be the welders, machinists, whatever. Hold them by the hand and either pull them or push them. And I prefer to pull. It seems to work a little better, but we are in a desperate strait, because as much as we like to talk about manufacturing and the manufacturing environment, heavy industry, i.e. steel mills, mines, when they shut down because there's nobody to fix their stuff anymore, I think you can read all about that in Atlas Shrugged, but at the end of the day, industry will stop. It will grind to a halt. And to me, that's extremely dangerous, because that's the collapse of pretty much everything. I hope that this program really takes a lot of root. I'm very excited about what I've heard. I'd like to get more information and start working a little more closely with this project. And maybe, hopefully sooner than later, we can make some inroads. After all, I have to tell you, I'm a selfish person. The company I work for, I love them. It's their family operation, and I want to see them be successful. That's the selfish side of me. Do I need to work? No, I don't. I do it because I love it. And that, it's nice when you never have to work a day in your life because you enjoy it. Anyway, I want to thank everyone that's presented. It's been very enlightening, and look forward to more of the same. Thank you very much.
Wow, what a pleasure. That was so lovely. Thank you very much for sharing. Dennis, any final thoughts here? Thank you for staying an extra 10 minutes, everyone. I think that was well worth it. Dennis.
No, I mean, I couldn't echo your sentiment more. That was lovely. I think we're all trying to work hard to close the skills gap, and that's why we're on this phone. To David's point earlier, it does take time. It's at least 2% of people's time to learn something new, probably 5% of someone's time if they're training someone. That's minimum. So I'm grateful to be part of the group, and I would love to share any of the knowledge we have and help people mature their workforce development programs in any way we can. So please just don't hesitate to reach out. We are driving around and doing Zooms and going to see people and connecting pathways from education to work. And also trying to make sure that your internal learning and teaching environment is what you want it to be. So thank you for the opportunity to speak to everybody today.
Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate everyone's words and everyone for sharing. Kimberly, I'll be happy to answer your question here. I'm just going to close it out for everyone else, just so everyone get on with their day. Thank you for staying 11 minutes later than we were scheduled. I really appreciate that. We'll talk soon. If you're not on the LinkedIn group, get on the LinkedIn group. You can get invited from me. I'll make sure everyone on this call at least gets an invite to it. And that's where we're going to be sharing a lot of our activities, is through that page and obviously through email blasts. So pay attention there. And if you ever at all feel disconnected from us, just email me or call my cell and say, I'm disconnected. I want to know what's coming up next. And I'll be more than happy to share. So yeah. Sorry, just had a couple more things. Yep, absolutely, David, I'll invite you. All right, guys, thank you so much. And we will see you next time.